Hello there, my lovely jewelry makers. I'm Christina of CSLdesigns, and today I'm going to show you how to make this 3D effect wire macrame bracelet. So it's quite a simple technique as we only use a square knot for this, but it's the way that we put the knots together that makes this 3D effect. And then of course adding in beads can add both colour and bling to the piece. So if you want to learn how to make it, then keep watching. So it's these materials we're going to need. Now I have two different gauges of regular round copper wire here. First of all, I have a 1mm. You can also use a 0.8mm. This is going to be the holding wire. And then next here I have a 0.5mm, and this is going to be the working wire. And I've then got my beads here. So these are 3mm rounds, and they are faceted hematite gemstone beads. And I just got purple and a silver colour there. But of course you can choose however many and what colours that you want to use. Finally, I've got my findings, so I've got my extender chain there, lufter claw clasp, and of course a few jump rings to put it all together. Now don't forget, like always, I'm going to leave the material list and useful link in the description box down below, so feel free to check that out. Otherwise, let's get it all ready and let's get started. Then the lengths of wires we'll need to cut is first of all here a length of my 1mm of about 35 centimeters, and this is going to be the holding wire. And we then need two lengths of a 0.5mm of about 1 meter and 30 centimeters each, and these are our working wires. Now I'm then going to be working with my mini macrame board here. It has all these notches all the way around. It makes it nice and easy to work with our wire doing macrame. Then I'm going to take my length of 1mm here, so the holding wire, and I want to attach that onto my board. So I'm just going to pick the middle slot here on the short side and just leave a tail of about 5 centimeters or so and push that towards the back, and then just come down to the bottom here of the board and then take the directly opposite slot. Again, I have a short tail here, place that into the slot and then bring that tail around the back of the board. And then now I have my holding wire attached to my macrame board. I then grab one of my working wires here that I've cut ready, and first of all I want to find the midpoint. So put the two ends together and then go down here in the middle where I then have a little loop, you could say. So I know now this is my midpoint. I don't need to squeeze it tight, just that little loop. Then I need to bring one of the ends underneath the holding wire. I put the ends together again and then just pull this all the way till I get to that midpoint here. That I'm then going to place right below the holding wire, and I then need to attach this, and I'm going to do that using a simple square knot. So first of all I just need to kind of hold on to that with my finger while I make my first knot, as obviously it's all still loose. So I take my left wire, bring that over the middle, then I take the right one over that, underneath everything in the middle here, including that holding wire, and up through the loop on the other side, and pull it all the way through, and then tighten this as tight as you can get there. And that is now the first half of a square knot. So I'm just going to make one full square knot in order to attach this. So now start with the other side. So the right one goes over, left one goes over that, underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop on the other side. And now you can see I don't need to hold on to the wire anymore because it's already staying in place. But then tighten that other half. We now have one full square knot. And you then just want to grab your other length of wire and do the exact same thing, attach it straight underneath this first one. So now both are attached there right below each other. It's time to start making the pattern. So what we have as well is we need to start adding in our beads. So I'm going to do that first of all. I'm going to start with my top two wires, one on either side there. So from the very first knot, and then I'm just going to take two silver beads. Obviously you can choose whatever you're using. So I start with the left and let that drop all the way down, and then I'm just going to grab my right wire, add a bead to that as well so they're both ready, and let that drop all the way down as well. Now I just need to get my wires in the right position. So like I said, I'm using the top two, but I need to bring them down so I can work with them down here. So to do that, on the left here, what I'm going to do is bring that top wire below the other one, but on the right side I'm going to bring it above the other wire, and then both of them are coming straight down here. And then all I'm going to do with these two wires now is simply make a square knot. So I'm just starting my knot from the same side. So done the whole time. So start making the first half, and you'll find, make sure that the beads are staying up there as you're tightening the knot here. But then that's going to then lock the beads in place. So that's obviously the first half. I then want to finish a square knot with the other half. Retighten the first one there, and then pull that nice and tight. So I've now made a knot, my first knot, where I've added in beads as well. And what you'll then find is the now new two top wires were the ones that were below before. They're now the top ones. And one is coming out here towards the front, and one is coming out towards the back, so behind a bead. And that is exactly what we want. So just want to move it down a little bit, give me a little bit more space to work with. Then I'm going to make the next knot here. Like I said, I'm going to use now the new top wires. So I'm always going to be bringing the top wires down to use for my next knot. And again, before I do that though, I want to just add my beads. So I take one at a time, just my left one, add a bead, and in this case I'm then using my other colour just to kind of mix it up a bit, and then picking the right wire there, taking the right one and adding the same colour bead to that. Of course you can mix up your pattern with the colours however you want to. Now what we need to do here is again bring the wires in the right position. So what you can do as well is kind of use the wires themselves to help guide you how you need to bring them down. So this one here is coming out towards the top, so that means I need to bring it down over the top of the other one. If you remember previously we brought it under, but this one needs to go over to come down and straight down, and then the other one here needs to be opposite, so that needs to come under, and that's also showing you because it's coming out towards the back, so underneath the other bead there. So that just needs to come underneath to come straight down, and then I can simply make another square knot using these two wires. Again, to cage the beads in place. And remember, as I'm tightening my first half of the knot here, just make sure the beads stay up top. And you can turn the previous knots a little bit as well, because you actually want these beads to sit, if we looked at the original position where the silver beads there, the knots for the silver beads, they were flat. We want the one here in the front to be in the middle of them, and on the back it needs to be in the middle as well. So you can just kind of turn your piece a little bit. If you haven't got the holding wire too tight on the macrame board, you can also easily do that automatically. Because it's wire we're working with, it will kind of want to rotate around the holding wire. So the other half of the square knot, like that, is now in place. Moving on to the next one. Again, I need to take now the current top two wires, one on either side, and bring them down. But before I do, add in my beads. So I'm going to add beads before every time we need to make a knot, because that is kind of how we achieve the look of this bracelet. The pattern itself is kind of basically the beads that create it. So add, in this case here, again, I'm using a silver wire on either side, let them drop all the way down. And then we just need to bring our wires down in the right order. So that means, again, you can see where the wires are coming out. This one here on the left with the silver bead, it more wants to come towards the back. So that means I need to bring that underneath the other one, which was also the same last time we did the silver bead. So that's another way to remember, obviously assuming you're doing the same pattern. But then the right one here needs to be opposite, so that needs to come over the other wire. But once you have that in place, it's the same thing. Just do a simple square knot. Like this. Make the first half, again make sure the beads stay up there. And again you can maneuver your wire around however you need to. Pull that nice and tight, and you can see they end up sitting just nicely below the previous silver ones. Of course, don't forget to make the other half. Pull that tight, and then just smooth the wires out here. That's also every time I make a knot and tighten my wire here, I smooth out my wires by running it through my hands and fingers, just so we avoid any kinks. And moving on, next we're going to grab the two top wires, one on either side, which are now the ones where we use purple beads, in my case obviously. First of all, add the beads, and like I said, that's going to be the same color as before. So my beads are basically going to be color-wise straight down in almost lines running down through. But obviously you can easily achieve other patterns, or just use one color of beads as well and just have a nice effect all the way around. Let the beads drop down, and then here, the same way that I brought the wires down when I did the previous purple ones, this one is coming out towards the top, so I need to bring it down over the other wire. And to do opposite, and also you can tell it's coming out towards the back, so I need to bring it under and down. And then just try and get the other ones out of the way to try and not get tangled up. And then just do a simple square knot to tighten everything in place. Don't forget, if you need to, you can turn your piece a little bit, because technically we're kind of making this square knot sideways compared to the other ones, the ones with the silver beads, as you can see there. So when we're looking from this angle, where the purple ones are on the sides, the silver ones here are in the middle, at the front and the back, and we're looking at the silver ones straight on, they're on the side, and then the purple ones are in the middle, front and back. So we kind of get almost an all-round 3D piece with this effect. Can't forget the other half of the square knot. Tighten that nicely, and that is basically the pattern going nicely now. You just want to keep doing this. Remember to add in your beads every time, and then remember just to check that you're bringing the top wires down that you need to use next in the correct order, so whether you need to bring them under or over. Remember to check that, like I've already explained, but otherwise keep going until you reach the other end. And now I've added my last beads here, then I just want to finish off this end the same way that I started the other end. So I'm just going to make one more square knot with each set of wire here. So the next one I was due to use to add beads to are these two here, in this case the purple beads. But I'm just going to make the knot without adding beads in. Again, make a full square knot. And this just kind of finishes off the end nicely. So that was that one. Then moving to the other pair. In my case, the ones where I would have used silver beads, but again, don't add the beads in. Pull that nice and tight. Do the other half. And there we go. And then I removed it from a macrame board here, and then we just got to finish off the ends of the working wires. Now we have the two final knots we made. the wires are coming out from. So these two here are from that very final knot. So just kind of leave them out of the way. I'm going to start with the other two. Now what you'll find is the wires are kind of coming out towards opposite sides. So one more to one side of the knot and one more towards the other side. And of course this knot here is kind of being caged in by that very final one, but just try and set them apart. So what I'm then going to do is this wire here is coming out from that first knot that we made, so not the very last one. I just want to bring it, because it's kind of going towards the other side, I'm going to bring it through the loop which is created when we made the final knot. So I just want to bring this wire to the other side of the knot. So just bring it through gently. Make sure it's stayed nice and tight. And then on the other side here, I want to do the same thing with this one. So bring that through the loop there, the little gap we have in the knots or between the knots, and then bring that to the other side. Because basically what we want to do is secure these wires in place to be able to cut them off basically. Just get that little kink undone so I can bring the wire through. And then I'm just going to bring it further around, and basically what we're doing is wrapping these wires around the holding wire there, but within the knot. So kind of bring them further around to the side as if we were going to go through that loop on the other side, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to bring them over to the other side, and then I'm going to take my flush cutters, go in and cut off the excess, making sure I leave a short little tail. That's one. I'm going to do the other one. Like that. And then always take your tweezer nose or chain nose pliers and just basically go in and squeeze down the ends that are left and kind of basically tuck them into the knot itself. That way we get rid of the wire ends. So like that. Make sure nothing is sticking out in any way. And of course repeat with the other two wires here that we have left. So you can see one is coming more towards one side of the knot and the other is coming out towards the opposite side. So I'm just going to follow that pattern. So this one here I'm going to bring to the opposite side of the knot and go through the gap we have within the knot. Just so basically we are then making these wires also wrap around the holding wire there, running through the whole piece. And I'm just doing this so that when we cut off the wire, it's wrapped around some other wires so it's nice and secure. So same thing, bring them towards the opposite side, but then go in and cut off the excess while just leaving that short little tail. Just like before. Now we just don't have obviously other wires kind of in the way. And then just squeeze the ends down so they get tucked inside of the knot. So something a bit like that. And now we got rid of our working wires. You can then choose to use the holding wire running through the bracelet to make the clasp with if you want to, or you can just make some loops and attach a separate clasp, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take my tweezer nose, place them a little bit above where that very final knot is, and then put a bend into it, just about 90 degrees or so. Then I'm just going to take my 6-step bell making pliers here and use the smallest step. You can also use round nose pliers. Place them on the bend and then bring the wire back around all the way so we get a full circle like that. And then I like to grab onto the circle with my pliers, so my tweezer nose there, while I then take the tail and wrap it around the little gap that we left. below the circle to basically lock it in place. Just wrap around a few times until we then run out of space. And I'm then going to cut off the excess using my flush cutters, like that. And then, again, always make sure to squeeze down the very end of the wire, so that's obviously not going to catch or scratch on anything. And of course you just want to repeat that on the other end as well. So you can choose to leave it like this, where we have the two different colors, in my case here, running down as straight lines all the way along. Or what you could also do is manipulate this and basically turn it into spirals. So you would just start and basically push the knots, as you can see here. So we start adding a spiral shape into it, and just do that all the way down. So basically manipulate the positioning of the beads, and again that would definitely work really well if you're using multiple colors of beads, because then it will really make those spirals here stand out nicely from each other. So you can just keep manipulating it until you're happy with how the spirals look, so basically how tight you want them. And then once you're happy with how it looks and you've attached your findings, then all we got to do is shape it. So what I'm just going to do here is use my hands and fingers, but you could also shape it around something that's the size and shape you want it to have. But using your hands and fingers, just going to a place to start and basically start adding a curve into it. Now don't just go in and make a big bend, that'll put it out of shape, but just adding a gradual curve going back and forth until we basically have the two ends meeting up and we can use our clasp. And we then have our finished bracelet ready to wear. So if you enjoy wire macrame, do feel free to check out my channel. I have loads of other tutorials for it and other things as well. But otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.